I think initially I would say courage. I mean, ultimately, when you have a challenge, they're, by definition, difficult, potentially new things, areas where you have to convince people of something that they do not believe or is against the status quo.
Mhm.
And so initially the courage to face those challenges, I would think, but like kind of over time for me, from a career perspective, it's more of like a resilience thing because it's not really about in your career a single challenge, or it's really your sort of daily overcoming daily challenge.
GovCon has a language of its own. Acronyms, compliance, contracting, and when you're new, it can feel a little bit like alphabet soup. And no one hands you a decoder ring. That's why we're here. I'm your host, Amanda Ziadeh, and this is Rookies to Rockstars, where we get real about how people actually break in, level up, and lead in government contracting. Not everyone starts in GovCon. Some take a sharp left turn. Ben Buckley, Vice President and General Manager for the Space and Cyber Intelligence Sector at GDIT, studied biochemistry at Bucknell before making the leap into technology. He learned on the job, took smart risks, and worked his way up over 16 years to lead some of GDIT's largest and most complex IT programs for defense and the intelligence community. Today, Ben oversees mission tech across multi-domain intelligence, cloud data, cybersecurity, and edge, but his path here was anything but linear. In this episode, Ben shares how switching lanes after college taught him to ask better questions, learn from mistakes, and stay proactive, even when no one hands you the playbook. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rookies to Rockstars, a short, sharp series where we ask bold, smart people one thing. What do you know now that you wish someone had told you at the start? And our guest is Ben Buckley. Thanks for joining me today, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Ben, I understand that you've been with GDIT for over 16 years now, having led some of its largest and most complex IT programs. Today, you oversee transformative IT and enhanced mission capabilities for defense and intelligence community customers around the world, delivering specialized technology solutions in multi-domain intelligence, cloud, data management, cybersecurity, analysis, edge computing, and so on. So with that said, I kind of wanted to backtrack a little bit. I noticed that on your LinkedIn, you went to Bucknell for undergrad for biochemistry before jumping into the world of GovCon. So tell us a little bit about your initial interest in how you first got your start after college.
Yeah, so it was interesting. In college, I actually wanted to be a doctor, hence the biochemistry degree. But, the more I got through school, I did love the biochemistry, honestly, from a major perspective. It was very interesting, very analytical. I sort of, over time, decided I didn't really want to be a doctor. So it probably had something to do with me taking the MCAT prep course and not really being super interested in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I always was very into technology and computers. And so, when I graduated, I actually interned at a pharmaceutical company near my house throughout college, and immediately after kind of worked there for about a little less than a year, but I really didn't enjoy it. And so I really wanted to make a move to technology. And so, which was interesting because at the time, people looked at me and they're like, well, why are you doing this? You don't have any expertise in this. And I was right out of college. So I assumed, you can go to any career, but it definitely was a little bit difficult in the very beginning.
What kind of drew you to technology in that area of work?
Just from a personal perspective, I always enjoyed building things. I always enjoyed sort of futuristic type of activities. And I guess the combination of those two things drew me to technology. So I kind of consider myself more like a builder and enjoying that type of thing. And so computers were sort of a natural fit for me.
What did making that switch early on kind of teach you, as a young professional, switching gears right after college like that?
It was one of those things where it was definitely a risk, ultimately, all my schooling was in biochemistry sort of.
Mhm.
And so it's not like I abandoned. Obviously, there was a lot of things that helped me from a major perspective, but you basically had to start over almost immediately in terms of everything you had done. And so my first job was for a .com in New York City. And, a ton of smart people, young, was energetic and fun. And it was a great place to start. I think it was fairly meritocratic as well in terms of the culture. And so it was really engaging, but I didn't know anything. So I had to really be vulnerable and ask questions and work hard and really make up for not having that sort of basis of knowledge, and really didn't have any training either. It was sort of on the job training for everything I did. So.
Yeah, what do you wish someone had told you, or a piece of advice you wish someone had given you at the beginning of that technology part of your career?
At first, I think it would have been, I just thought everybody had it figured out. You know what I mean? And when I first started and that, I was like, I'm lost, but everybody else seems to know what they're doing. So, I think my advice would be, put yourself out there and ask questions. As a new early career, you're not going to know everything. But I think especially in the beginning, you're there to absorb. You can learn so fast by asking questions, trying things. And I would have done that more, and just sort of the recognition. It took me a while to figure out that, everybody's just trying to figure this out, ultimately, and not everybody had the answer to all questions. And, people's ideas and things that they were doing weren't necessarily the best idea. And I sort of had to figure that out by myself. And I wish I had known that it's not like everybody else has it figured it out and you're just struggling yourself. So.
No, absolutely. And so you were working at a .com when you first switched gears. How did you end up in GovCon?
Yeah, so that was an interesting transition. I had moved on from the .com and I was working for a small consulting firm. It was principally oriented around like biotech and financial. And, my wife's family lives in DC. And so we just got married and we were looking to potentially move. And it was interesting because I was doing very well at work. It was sort of critical. You like to be critical at work. And, I'd gotten a promotion recently, but I wasn't really growing or learning. And so I decided to go for a job, actually SRA, which actually eventually became part of GDIT. I actually didn't, I moved to GDIT later, but I didn't actually go the whole course there. But ultimately, I got a job there that was supporting the Army National Guard. And it was a really interesting position as a design engineer. And so I took the risk to move. And it was just one of those things where it was comfortable where I was doing well, but I took the risk for the opportunity. They also countered when I left too, which made it very difficult because then it's like, okay, now they're paying you more than the new job. So I really did take a push forward and make a risk that this is going to be the right thing to do. But I was excited about the job. I mean, the mission sounded amazing and interesting. So I was sort of all in on, that opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, this wasn't your first time kind of taking a job where you didn't have the experience or expertise in that field. So what was it like working with government when you first, entered GovCon, especially the Army?
I was definitely worried about that. I mean, when you move to, a sort of commercial and, from commercial to the government, you really don't know what to expect. In my experience, I mean, it was immediately translated and, and I was worried and concerned, but from a technology perspective, I had like a pretty substantial knowledge of the things that I was moving over to. Mm-hmm. And I actually found that it was immediately could contribute. And so I was happy because I didn't know how that was going to work out, to be honest with you. I was thinking like, hey, I'm consulting on relatively small companies, not like the large federal government. I mean, they were interesting companies, but they were, medium-sized companies. They weren't anything the size of the federal government. So I was concerned, but from a technology perspective, it really did work out.
So tell us about the jump to GDIT.
Ultimately, it was just one of those other opportunities for a position. And I think it's thematic in my career. I really did chase opportunities versus position or comp or other sort of things like that. And there was an opportunity to work for a very large, like multi-billion-dollar contract for GDIT. When one of my friends had moved over to GDIT at the time. And I started there as an engineer on the beginning part of the program, and it was a BRAC consolidation and IT project, and kind of grew up through the program. It was a long program. It was a 10-year program. And by the end of the program, I was running the program. So it was kind of a cool experience where I started as an engineer and ended up being the program manager by the end of it. So I kind of got to see the rise in the ranks and see all the jobs and grow within the group. So that was definitely one of the best experiences I had in my career.
Awesome. So now that we kind of have an idea of the trajectory of your career, was there a challenge, a hurdle that you had to overcome during the progression of your career, and what mindset helped you overcome that?
I think initially, I would say courage. I mean, ultimately, when you're from a mindset perspective, when you have a challenge, they're, by definition, difficult, potentially new things, areas where you have to convince people of something that they do not believe or is against the status quo. And so initially the courage to face those challenges, I would think, but like kind of over time for me, from a career perspective, it's more of like a resilience thing, because it's not really about in your career a single challenge, or it's really your sort of overcoming daily challenge. And like, if you don't continue to overcome those challenges, it does really inhibit like your success and your progress. And it really becomes a mindset of resilience.
And kind of on the flip side, choosing challenges, taking risks. You mentioned you've taken a few risks in your career and they've paid off. So how do you recommend those moving up in the field approach risk?
I think this is a hard thing for a lot of people because, I mean, nobody wants to be risky. Ultimately, everybody has to pay their bills and they want to advance. But the truth is, you really do need to risk to progress and to grow in your business and things. And so, I mean, from my perspective, if you're in a risk alone, that's the wrong thing to do. You should risk should be best managed with others to kind of talk about what those risks are. But I'm not going to focus on risk mitigation. I do think you do need to a soundboard for risk. You don't want to go into that and just make risks all by yourself.
Right.
But ultimately, my opinion is, you have to put yourself out there and you have to manage risks. And in some cases, the challenges with risks are not a lot of people are going to be with you in the beginning when you're saying you should do something that's new. Everything that is new is by definition risky. And I've had a lot of experiences pushing new ideas and initiatives. And, it's at first it's pretty lonely, honestly, in terms of doing that. And so you really do have to take input from others, make sure you're not, truly absorbing too much risk and that there is a reward for it. Ultimately, you don't want to just take risk. But I do think there's a bit of resiliency event in risk taking and making sure that you're pushing forward for something you believe in.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the off chance that maybe a risk goes wrong or you make a mistake, have you made a mistake where you feel like you've learned from it so much and needed that to happen to really grow as a leader? Has there been a moment in your career like that?
Yeah, I'm very opinionated on this one specifically. I mean, by definition, if you are pushing and you're trying hard and you're taking risks, you're going to make mistakes. And I mean, mistakes are difficult, right? I mean, it does not feel good to make a mistake. Nobody likes it. Sometimes you get in trouble. Ultimately, there's a bunch of bad things that come with mistakes, but that's how you grow and that's how you learn. And that is the basis for all experience, right? I mean, the success does not teach as well as failure. I mean, just quite frankly, and sometimes you learn the wrong lessons from success. And so ultimately, I'm a big advocate for not making mistakes, but learning from your mistakes. And I think that sometimes people just try to get over the mistake and move on from that. And my personal opinion is some of my best successes have come from learning from mistakes and incorporating that into what I did next.
Yeah, and embracing them, right? I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it really is what you do after the mistake that really matters, not, in terms of how you respond to that. I mean, just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you stop. It just means you have to adjust, you recover, you learn, and you move to the next thing.
I feel like it also kind of teaches you how to resolve conflict with leadership or your colleagues around you. Oftentimes these mistakes obviously don't just impact you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially when you're a leader, when mistakes get made and you have to convince people to do something the next time,
right?
you have to deal with that too. So, I mean, there's a lot of layers there.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've kind of moved into senior leadership roles and taken on more responsibility, how has your own idea of success evolved over the years?
I guess when I started my career, success was more destination oriented or it's more personal. It was about what I would achieve from a career or a position or maybe compensation, things that were sort of, and then it would just be done. At least that was my thought of success. And it's definitely not a destination anymore. It's not like a one thing. And it's largely not necessarily about me. One of the reasons why I love what I do now is because I get to affect more than I could personally, individually affect and influence and improve. And so success for me now is, when we implement something or create a plan and it ends up having an impact, either with our team, the government, mission, financial, any number of those things. It's sort of broader than myself. And it's really great to be able to do something that transcends your individual ability to do that. And for me, that's success, is being able to do those types of things. And that's why I love, this specific role that I had.
Yeah, I mean, considering your tenure with GDIT, what has been the most impactful aspect of growing within an organization for over 10 years, which today I don't think people graduate college thinking they'll be with an organization for that long.
I didn't think I was going to do that either. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I think the best part in my mind was I got to experience within a company, and GDIT has changed over the years as well too. So in some ways, the companies and I have evolved similarly, but ultimately, I got to experience within one company, the growth and evolution of multiple positions and learning from sort of the bottom up. And that's been a great experience for me because it's taught me a lot, especially in my role now.
Hmm.
And, I do think it's important to ensure that you have a sense of what's going on at the program level, at the mission, the customer level, and staying very connected to that is important to me. And sort of, not just sitting in my office having meeting, it's just like being
Hmm.
connected. And that experience has really helped me do that and value that. And has helped us as a team be more successful as well. And it helps me make better decisions, honestly.
Yeah. So thinking about, that next generation of leaders and innovators, what's one belief or assumption that you think they might need to unlearn to succeed in this field?
I don't know if there's an unlearn. I mean, if I look at early career and my experience with the early career and talent, I'm pretty impressed by them, honestly. Things are more challenging now. I mean, curriculums are harder, schools are harder to get into. There's a lot of competition for everything, and certainly more than when I was coming into the workforce. And so as I think about early career talent, we have some pretty amazing folks. Like we just had finished up our internship program with Praxis Engineering. It's a company under the GDIT umbrella. And they had some amazing interns who were three different teams. Two of them won awards. They were all working with machine learning, doing different things, computer vision. They were doing some motion models as well. And it's just very interesting stuff. And not only were they technical, they were great presenters. I mean, I sort of envied that looking back. I mean, I didn't start my career like that. And so I don't really have anything that can be unlearned. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I've seen a lot of early career talent doing the right things, at least that I've interacted with. And, I mean, in some ways of a model of how we should all be.
So yeah, would you place kind of more of an importance on internship, mentoring, networking, those kind of aspects of career progression?
Yeah, I mean, we are very focused on early talent development. I mean, especially in the intelligence community and bringing people into the environment to enrich like both the technical skills and ultimately make sure that there's continued interest in supporting the mission. So definitely mentoring. I mean, we were very focused, right now specifically on innovation and how we can apply that to our customers' mission in like way in advance of need and things of that nature. And bringing in interns is actually a great way to do that, especially with clearance requirements and other things that we have to contend with.
So rather than unlearning, if you could hardwire one value or skill into every young person starting out today, perhaps in any field, maybe a general value that you should think they should have, what would it be and why?
I would look at being proactive. I
Mm.
think one of the things that's challenging in sort of the fast pace we move in, everybody's busy. I think when you're starting your career, sometimes you're in receive mode in some cases, but I really would encourage people to be proactive, ask questions, do research. I mean, ultimately, I think every manager is impressed when anybody that works for them is trying to do something proactively and do something better. And really having that self-driving initiative, I think would be the one attribute that I'd hold it to. So.
Right. Well, and to close, I kind of have a random question for you. Since the cyber and space intelligence field is very hot topic right now, very trending, and I think lots of people have misconceptions around what that means in the sense of the kind of work that perhaps you do. What has been one of the most obvious misconceptions to you in this field, and then also the most exciting that you've learned in the space and cyber field?
Misconceptions. I don't know if I mean, I think space and cyber is a lot of different things. So it's a
Yeah,
very general thing. And we,
true.
by definition, have to be a little general when we talk about the work that we do. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I would say on the cyber side, it's overused. Obviously, it's used as a general definition for everything. I mean, I think one of the misconceptions is there's just so much behind cyber in terms of what's, defensive, full spectrum, all those aspects. There's so much baked into it. And it really takes an understanding of the whole package of like what those technologies are. So, I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's probably just, the only time. That probably wasn't a great answer to your question.
No, no, that's totally okay. I mean, it's funny when you think of students that are graduating or younger in the field looking up to these areas of expertise. And like you said, it seems so general, like you just say space and cyber, but space is so big right now. And it's just,
Yes. Well, and certainly the evolution and like, commercial capabilities is,
Mhm.
both with launch and commercial satellites and everything like that is really driving a whole industry that didn't exist, right? Essentially,
Right.
So I mean, there is so much activity in that, and then the whole sensor capability and all the things that can be done there, and in comms and everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it is a really interesting dynamic market right now. And similarly, cyber. I mean, there's just so much happening in that
So
area, and that's difficult, I think, for early career to kind of target what you want to do. The good news is, like, I mean, at least at an organization like ours, is there's just such a broad range of activity we're doing. It's even hard to kind of pin down, like, oh, we're just doing this. I mean, we're really looking at all aspects of both of those things, and we have a pretty broad portfolio as well. So,
yeah, seems like an exciting field to be in, especially at this
yeah,
moment. So, well, Ben, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey with us, your lessons learned, advice with our listeners. I really appreciate you being here.
thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Rookies to Rockstars. GovCon doesn't come with a playbook, but these stories might be the next best thing. Follow the show, share it with someone still figuring it out, and connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you.